So we're halfway through version 3.4. Version 3.5 is on the horizon, and there are multiple questions that have risen up through the first half of this story. I believe that I should probably make a note of all the questions I currently have, and hopefully all of them will be answered by the end, or at least we'll get a little bit expanding on them, either in 3.5 or by the end of Amphoreus. So I want to start off with, how much did March 7th plan ahead? Because Oronyx mentions Mother was calling out for us, and the Act 1 of Evernight actually reveals that March is the quote-unquote mother that Oronyx was referring to.
Mother, teach me how to answer prayers.
The Titan tasked with time is as perplexed as a child.
Okay.
Don't be scared. Please don't be afraid.
March!
Listen carefully.
Mother, huh?
In the past,
Like the first light of the morning star.
She was Oronyx's mother, huh? We also see in the Act 1 of Evernight that March clearly tells Oronyx that the stars will come and visit someday. And this is clearly before we met her. So how does she know about this? And did she potentially lure us to Amphoreus or know that the Express would turn up here? Then following on from that question, I have another one. Was March's memory loss her own intention? Because I believe it would have been easier for her if she had have remembered everything when she came to the Astral Express, yet that isn't what ultimately happened. She was found floating in the midst of space in 6th phase ice. So, following on from that question, if the answer's no, if it wasn't her intention, is the Garden of Recollection responsible somehow? Considering we see them sending in other memo keepers, or at least know they did because of Serene. If the answer to that is no, then if it wasn't the Garden who was responsible for the memory loss, then how did it happen? Another question is, how is the Garden of Recollection in danger because of the position of Amphoreus? The only assumption I have is if March is tied to the cycles that Serene started, and somehow March is fully, then it maybe makes sense why the Garden would be naturally impacted by this, and so would the Path of Remembrance. But we don't really have a whole lot of information to go on. And if that isn't the case, then does it tie to the faction of the Garden that are trying to make Amphoreus a part of a collection of sorts? And is that potentially going to harm the Eden of Blessed Insight? Another question is, if March is so essential to the Garden, then why did the other memo keepers prevent her from remembering her past? Anyone who went through the March companion mission should remember that a memo keeper specifically was preventing her from delving into her memories or using the Matrix of Prescience in order to look into her presumable past. Why? My next question is, who/what is March? I'd assume that she's tied to Fooly or is Fooly themselves. I'm hoping for the latter. It would make sense of why she has so much more power if she's potentially enabling the looping of Amphoreus and has always been connected to what was going on there. The next question is, are the missing memo keepers the fairies in the Membrance Maze? The main evidence we have to go on this is the fact that Mem was Serene, who ended up taking that form and accompanying us. And she is tied to the Path of Remembrance. There is nothing to say that the other quote-unquote mems aren't also memo keepers. After all, mem is a part of the word remembrance, memory, and memo keeper. And keeping memos is also how you remember or make note of certain things. If the answer to the memo keepers being the fairies in the Membrance Maze is a no, then where are they and what happened to them? And what are the fairies as well? The next question I have is, how much does Black Swan know about Amphoreus and about March. She was the one who notified the Express about Amphoreus, and she has clearly kept her cards close to her chest. She knew that the factions were trying to make Amphoreus part of a collection, and withheld that information on purpose. There is nothing to say she isn't holding back more information. Another question is, who/what is Lycurgus, aka Lygus? We see the mural in the sky. We also know that he is connected to the scepter and is the reason why this experiment is seemingly happening, to try and create an emanator of destruction. I'd assume he's Rupert, since it'd make the most sense. Both Lygus and Rupert are connected to scepters, and it would be a really neat way to connect the lore of Golden Gears into the current story to follow on from those events. Onto a different topic. Considering the Golden Blood is now confirmed in the most recent version to be Nanook's blood, and Terravox in his Act 1 is implied to be Dan Heng and was given the blood,
And even Kepali did not neglect to share with them a chalice of golden blood.
will this blood make him and other characters tied to it more susceptible to the destruction? And can the blood be reverted back, or will they be forever changed if they leave this world, as having the blood of Nanook? Next, does Oronyx remember between each cycle? We don't know how long March has actually been missing, but Oronyx still misses her, despite the cycle probably has reset many times in her absence. So if Oronyx didn't remember her, then she shouldn't acknowledge the Trailblazer's connection to quote-unquote mother, but she does. If she does remember, then how does she remember? Is it a connection to the Path of Remembrance? And then my final question is, considering Phainon/Castellana lost in the battle against Sephiroth and seemed to crack apart, will his memories be carried forward into this cycle since Serena's reset things, or will the new Phainon not remember the previous cycles and be starting off from this new point? I'm hoping personally that Phainon can somehow remember, since carrying the weight of all of this is really essential to what he has been going through. It also will steal his resolve, but at the same time, he might actually be happier if he doesn't know the amount of pain he went through. I'm interested in anyone's answers to all of these questions. These are just things I think need to lore-wise be confirmed that aren't exclusive to Amphoreus' story and impact the greater story as a whole. Like Serija and Hysolins, I obviously have questions about the post they made implying that Hysolins kills Serija, but I also don't think it's anywhere near as important as what I'm currently asking in this video. There's so much going on that impacts the greater story of the entire game beyond them leaving Amphoreus, and I want the answers to that stuff, and to what's potentially going on with Remembrance as a path, since things look kind of precarious. Hopefully you guys had fun with this and my thoughts on the matter, and if you have any thoughts of your own, let me know in the comments. It's fun to theorize on the future of the game, and take care.